As Nazi Germany collapsed in 1945, a chilling silence fell over the country. A silence filled with dread for the officers who had orchestrated Hitler's war. The looming Nuremberg trials promised not just punishment, but a public reckoning for crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. For those who had commanded armies or run camps, the fear was visceral. These were not abstract charges, but potential death sentences. They had seen the evidence, the mass graves, the survivors, the paperwork tying them to atrocity. The thought of sitting in a defendant's box exposed before the world was a nightmare. It was not just fear of the gallows, but of public humiliation and the permanent stain on their names and families. Many officers felt a gnawing guilt, however much they denied it, knowing their complicity was undeniable. Fleeing became a psychological necessity, a way to escape both justice and their own conscience. The Nuremberg trials were only the beginning. Every German officer knew the net would widen to doctors, judges, industrialists, and commanders. The Allies' meticulous documentation left few places to hide. The choice was stark: wait for arrest or vanish into the shadows. For thousands, the decision was clear. The fear of justice, guilt, and the threat of exposure drove a desperate exodus. The world was watching, and the perpetrators knew it. The flight from justice had begun. The crimes these men fled from spanned every branch of the Nazi regime. The SS, led by Himmler, was the regime's ideological core and the main engine of genocide. Its Einsatzgruppen murdered over 1 million in the east, and its death's head units ran the camps. The myth of a clean Wehrmacht has been shattered. Army commanders issued illegal orders, supported mass killings, and starved millions of Soviet POWs. The Gestapo, the secret police, enforced terror at home and abroad, crushing resistance and sending countless victims to their deaths. Officers from all these groups knew the evidence was overwhelming, meticulously documented in their own records. The fear of trial was not just about punishment, but about confronting the scale of their crimes. From generals to camp guards, all shared a bond of culpability. The knowledge of what they had done and what awaited them drove their desperate flight. The machinery of terror had left no one untouched by guilt. In the chaos after the war, escape routes known as the Ratlines emerged, helping thousands of Nazis evade capture. These networks, stretching from Germany through Italy to ports like Genoa, relied on false documents, sympathetic clergy, and a web of facilitators. Bishop Alois Hudal in Rome was a key figure, providing shelter and Vatican-issued papers to fugitives. With new identities, notorious war criminals like Adolf Eichmann and Franz Stangl slipped away to South America and the Middle East. Argentina under Juan Perón became a notorious haven, actively recruiting Nazi experts to modernize its military. Other countries, including Brazil, Paraguay, Egypt, and Spain, also offered refuge. The Ratlines thrived on ideological sympathy, corruption, and post-war chaos. Allied intelligence knew of these routes, but was often overwhelmed. For fleeing officers, the Ratlines were a lifeline, a chance to disappear and start anew. While some allies hunted war criminals, others sought to recruit them. The US launched Operation Paperclip, secretly bringing over 1,600 German scientists and engineers, including Werner von Braun, to America. Von Braun, who developed the V-2 rocket using slave labor, became a hero of the US space program. Men with direct ties to Nazi atrocities were given new identities and prestigious jobs, their pasts whitewashed for Cold War advantage. The US government hid their crimes, prioritizing technological gain over justice. This was a profound moral compromise. National security trumped accountability. For these scientists, it was a stroke of luck escape from prosecution and a new life of privilege. While Nazi leaders faced the gallows, their skilled enablers were welcomed as allies. The pursuit of expertise came at the cost of justice. The Cold War transformed former Nazis from hunted criminals into valuable assets. Western intelligence, especially the CIA and West Germany's Gehlen organization, saw anti-communist Germans as experts against the USSR. Reinhard Gehlen, Hitler's intelligence chief on the Eastern Front, surrendered his archives to the Americans and built a new spy network for the West. Hundreds of compromised men were shielded from prosecution and placed in positions of power. The Soviets, by contrast, dealt swift and brutal justice, executions or harsh sentences in the Gulag. For many, Fleeing to the Western zones and seeking protection from Western intelligence was the only hope. The skills honed in service of the Third Reich became a ticket to freedom. The Cold War's priorities often overshadowed moral considerations. Some, like Klaus Barbie, were even aided in their escape by Western agencies. The line between justice and expediency blurred in the new global struggle. Beyond politics, the psychology of flight was rooted in denial and self-justification. Many officers clung to the defense of just following orders, distancing themselves from personal guilt. They saw themselves as soldiers, not criminals, and fleeing preserved their sense of honor. In exile, they maintained the fiction of being victims of history, not perpetrators. Some rationalized their actions as a crusade against communism, dismissing atrocities as necessary evils. This mindset fueled post-war revisionism and neo-Nazi ideology. Underground networks and expatriate communities reinforced these beliefs, providing both practical help and psychological comfort. The myth of the clean Wehrmacht and the denial of guilt persisted in these circles. Fugitives found validation among peers, resisting remorse and recasting themselves as wronged patriots. The flight from justice was as much about escaping shame as escaping the law. The mass escape of Nazi officers left a deep scar on history. For every leader tried at Nuremberg, thousands vanished. Men like Mengele and Eichmann lived freely for years. Survivors of Nazi crimes were denied closure, as justice was often outpaced by politics and chaos. The integration of Nazi experts into Western and Middle Eastern states shaped the Cold War and regional conflicts. In the US, Operation Paperclip fueled the space race. In West Germany, ex-Nazis helped build the new intelligence service. Expatriate communities in South America became incubators for neo-Nazi ideology and historical revisionism. These enclaves perpetuated the myths of the Third Reich, influencing far-right movements for decades. The story of the Nazi exodus is one of fear, guilt, and the uneasy balance between justice and pragmatism. The successful escape of so many perpetrators is a stark reminder of how easily justice can be subverted. The shadows of this history still shape our world today.